Binge the full week of The Ray Taylor Show ad-free over at inspireddisorder.com/plus.
This is The Ray Taylor Show.
Dave, Season 1, Episode 3, Hypospadias is the episode. I'm going to be spoiling, breaking down, talking about beat by beat, every little inch, nook, and cranny of this episode I'm going to talk about. So if you haven't watched Dave, which is an FX show, also available on Hulu, highly recommend checking it out. If you don't want to be spoiled, go do that, because I'm going to do this. Starting off with Season 1, Episode 3, Hypospadias. Not starting off. I've already done 2 episodes, obviously. That's how I got to 3. For those that don't know how numbers work, this is where we are. This is how we got here to Hypospadias. This episode starts off with the young Dave. We get to see young Dave Bird for the first time in the show. Back in 2001, little young Dave is getting his first round the bases. Not all the way around the bases. I think first base? I actually don't know exactly how the bases work when it comes to sex. But I think grabbing the boob is first base. I think. Right? Or is that kissing? Is kissing first base and then boob second base? I'm not sure. I'm not good at baseball or the definitions of, like, analogies of sex. I just, anything's a home run for me. But young Dave, not only feeling the breasts of a single girl, I mean, they're both children. All 3 of them are children, but 2 girls at the same time. The reason why is because Dave is the most, unthreatening person to those 2 girls. It is his complete lack of any masculinity why these 2 girls are allowing him to touch both of their boobs. Now, of course, they want to return the favor, as it were, or him to return the favor. But Dave's got a problem, and he doesn't want these girls to know his problem. So in an effort to stop this situation from going any further, he tells them that he has AIDS, and that is why they cannot touch his penis. Because Dave has a problem with his penis, which if you Google the title of this episode, Hypospadias, you will get medical explanations for some of what's wrong with his penis. But this is the episode where we really get to know every single thing about Dave Bird's penis. Lil Dicky. Not only size, because according to his dad, it's average. It's not small, it's average. But it's got a lot of other problems. Dave carries the emotional problems, the aesthetic and physical issues reside in his penis. And a lot of this episode, we, as the audience, are told in detail all of the issues he has with his penis. So he doesn't let those 2 girls look at it, touch it, nothing. Transaction over. You have little Dave talking to little Els about how amazing boobs are, how soft they are, very contrary to Steve Carell's character in 40-Year-Old Virgin, where he described boobs as being sacks of sand. Complete opposite Steve Carell from 40-Year-Old Virgin. They're amazing. Ask little Dicky. Little Davy. But of course, as happened back when phones were different, you didn't have your own independent number with your independent phone. You had a receiver that had a cord going to a base that had a cord going to the wall that connected all of the phones in the entire house. So just because you are in your bedroom talking to L's about how amazing boobs are, something that could never happen today, is your mom picking up one of the receivers anywhere in the house and immediately hear that her son was feeling up two girls and they were about to touch his penis, which he didn't because it's horrible. He did not want them to touch his horrible, horrible penis. So, of course, little Davy now downstairs getting yelled at by his mom. Dad walks in. Very, very similar, very reminiscent to American Pie, which I'm going to talk about later on in the week. Very similar situation where parents concerned but out of touch. Thinking he's like in threesomes and all this kind of stuff. Much more awkward than that. Much less romantic or barbaric, depending on what you're into, what your kinks are. And then they get into his penis problems. We get into more. We get told more. It's not AIDS. He's got hypospadias, which means that the pee hole is in a different location. But he's also got, he had, which we find out later, other things happening. So he's got an extra pee hole. So he's got two pee holes, both located, as far as I know. He has twice as many pee holes and both in wrong location. Just as if he had a penis without any holes to begin with, and they gave him a Prince Albert somewhere down the shaft, and it just went through the urethra. I don't know how Prince Alberts work. I don't know where that bar goes. I don't want to know. But for those wanting a visual of potentially, I haven't seen it. Based on this show, I am deducing within my brain that it started out as a normal-looking penis without a pee hole. But then underneath, at one point, the doctor got really crazy and just put a Prince Albert in there. That's not how it happened, but I'm sure that's, in my brain, that's kind of what it looks like. Which is not, like, you know, whatever. Everybody's different. On some level, you just got to be okay with the fact that you're different, you know, and embrace it. Like, on some level, you realize, I mean, when it comes to your dick, I can imagine, especially as a kid, anything involving that area, because in your brain, with all the hormones, you're just insane. You are an insane person. As far as boys go, in my experience, you are an insane person. And everything in life, in existence, because you're an insane person, because your biology is telling you to procreate, but you're in like high school and middle school, and you're also making weird smells, and your face is all disgusting. And if something were to happen that made your dick different, most people are just worried. Most dudes are just worried about being too small. I know I was. But if I also had the worry of having a small dick, compounded with the worry of the fact that I have not one, but two pee holes, both in wrong locations, I can understand. It's traumatizing. I can understand that. But, you know, it is what it is. It is what it is. He got busted by his parents. Awkward. Having to go into the whole thing. Let's just have a conversation about my dick, Mom and Dad. About stuff you know about. Like, even that, having, like, just, I mean, as much attention that would have had to been put on your penis throughout your life, not only having the first issue, but then getting the second pee hole added by accident. You know, I can understand that being traumatizing. Having that much attention being put on a piece of your body that ends up, because you're going crazy, like just compounding all of those fears. Then we're back in the future. We're back in the now. We're back with Lil Dicky going through his apartment, going back to his bedroom. And we're going to see how Big Dicky lays it down when he's alone. We see his routine. This is a man who has a routine when he's going to masturbate. Like, he is not some amateur masturbator where he's just pulling it dry. No. He has a setup. He has invested in machinery. Well, not machinery, but he has invested in products for this one specific act. And I am sitting here as a man, a fellow human, saying that I have as well purchased products for my alone time. But I have never, ever thought about, considered, even mildly, the product that he purchased. It is like the bottom half of a sex doll, right? They make those crazy look, like realistic. They, sure. That's way too much. That's way too much. I'm far more of a minimalist, even with the products that I purchase for my alone time. But what Dave has is the bottom half from like the hips, the waist down to the feet. But they are not rigid. These are not like, it is like somebody took the rubber, stripped the rubber off of like one of those sex dolls, like the high-end sex dolls. Like the skeletal part is still at the factory. This dude just ripped off the skin-like, flesh-like thing. So he has these saggy, floppy legs that are part of this thing that is just, I don't even know, it's like bent over, so it's like ass out. I don't remember if the legs come apart. I don't remember the specific anatomy of this thing. All I know is that it has the least rigidity of any pair of legs that you will ever see. Ever. Like ventriloquist dummies have more like structural integrity than these legs. And not only does he have this gigantic thing that's buried in his closet under a pile of clothes, right? They make those where it's just that the groin area, They make those where it's just that section, right? I mean, I could understand if you want the legs, if you're used to holding them, but these aren't rigid legs. You would just be holding like two wet noodles. It just doesn't make any sense whatsoever, which adds to the comedy of it. Obviously. It's just overly ridiculous. But not only does he have that, he also turns a heater on to heat it up. He wants it realistic. Now, I know people, some people have elaborate setups for their thing. I've never been this elaborate. I'm probably like a step or two below that. I do more than I should, but sometimes I like to have fun. And, I've been single for a long time. So, hey, let's do this. Let's treat myself. Some me time, some self-love, self-care. So he turns the heater on, drenches it in oil. He's got a stick wrapped with like on one end with a bunch of TP. So that's obviously his cleanup stick. So he's got everything ready. Got his laptop on the bed, puts the thing on the bed, puts the laptop to the side, bring up his favorite porn, which we find out in this episode later what his go-to porn is. And then he makes this face, which I don't even know. I think it's this way, right? No, this way. There he is. That's him, I think. That's the face he makes. And then his laptop's there, and then off camera is the torso that you just can't. I can't put it on here for the people watching this show. You saw what I did. For those listening, just watch the show. Watch this show, that show, whatever. The Many Faces is an ongoing abstract ink portrait series that I started many years ago. I release a new face every day, but go to inspireddisorder.com to check them out. So many available. But as a listener to The Ray Taylor Show, you can save 10% when you use coupon code INSPIRED when you check out. So go to inspireddisorder.com/TMF. That stands for The Many Faces. Go check them out, browse the entire collection, and when you decide on a piece, or maybe multiple pieces, make sure you use coupon code INSPIRED when you check out, and you'll save 10% as a big thank you for checking out my work, for collecting my work, and for listening to The Ray Taylor Show. And with that said, let's get back to the show. So you see a setup. You know, he cleans it up. Of course, like, there is this Drake poster that he has in his room that is a common, common thing that I don't know how often, but it seems to be the area Dave Bird, Lil Dicky, looks to after he completes, after he finishes, is to look at Drake. And on some level, it feels like it's a mistake that he's, the moment after this event, he locks eyes with a poster of Drake on his wall. Some part, it feels like he accidentally does it. But also on some level, maybe subconsciously, that's, you know, maybe Drake's comforting for him, and he needs, you know, some kind of visual hug after having just completed inside of his torso looking thing. So he throws it back in the closet, leaves, goes to the studio. He's working on some new raps with Els is there. His girlfriend, Allie, shows up. She's got some food. She's got some sandwiches, as people are known to bring into that studio, sandwiches. She decides to stay and see how the sausage is made, as it were. See how the magic gets put together. Which she's like, I wonder how new their relationship was when this show started. Because the first episode, she had never heard him rap. Second episode, he's doing this memorial rap, runs it by her and Emma before doing what would have been his first live show. So I don't even know if he's done a show yet. We don't know if Dave has ever even performed live yet. But he's working on new music with Els, and she wants to see. And she gets another taste of the character of Lil Dicky versus Dave Bird. You know, we saw a little taste of it with the tweet in the previous episode where he's like, oh, I just got head from my girlfriend. As Lil Dicky, he tweets that out. Obviously, he didn't even get head. That became a little kind of friction between him and Allie. And now she's seeing him, you know, doing the typical rap misogynistic, like, overly sexed into, like, which I would imagine is somewhat trendy, into kinks, into, like, you know, the typical rap shit. Whereas Dave Bird, he's not. He's traumatized. We know watching that he has problems with his penis. He's not a confident person in the bedroom, as his music might leave you to assume. But Allie doesn't get it. She tries to bring that home. You know, they're making out. She tries to, you know, throw it out there. You know, kind of going in doggy style, trying to put it out there just like very awkwardly. I want you to eat my ass. Which doesn't, like, so well done. Because that's like a scene where in a real relationship, especially if it's like fairly new, and, you know, maybe you're both not necessarily into like crazy shit, open about it. Some people are. Some people, it takes a while to get comfortable. And maybe they just never done it before. Maybe they've never been in a relationship where they went freaky deaky. Not that even eating ass is freaky deaky. I think eating ass is more commonplace today than it ever was. Than it ever was in my generation when I was growing up. Not that I'm much older than Dave, but just culturally, eating ass is far more prevalent and accepted and talked about. And she throws it out there, as I probably would too. Maybe I think my girlfriend is into freakier shit, and I want to test the waters. She's talking game that she likes it, so let me throw it out there. Which, coming from a dude telling somebody to eat their ass, is a lot different than a woman doing it. I would imagine the reaction Dave has in kind of ignoring it and almost being offended by it would be similar to a lot of women if I asked them to do that to me. But it ends up being, an argument. But she wants to know what he's into. And the thing that I don't really get, I've been asked this too, is women that ask what porn you're into as if that's the thing. That's the key to unlocking it, is just doing that thing. I mean, maybe for some guys it is. But for me, it depends on my mood, what I'm into, and how, crazy I want to get. But I think I'm more open and more comfortable than most people when it comes to. But regardless, they get an argument. She asks him what's the crazy thing he's into. And we find out that he's into milking porn. Which is out of all of the porn categories, probably one that I've never watched. Which is, the idea is dude laying on a table. There's a hole cut out in the table. Like a long table, like a 6-foot table. Hole cut out in the middle of it. That's where the dude's dick goes. And then a woman goes from under the table and milks him. And that's what he's into. Which is fine. Which is whatever. And, it's another thing where it's I'm sure it's like the fantasy versus reality, the character versus real, Dave Bird versus Lil Dicky, what he tweets out, what he raps about versus the person he is, which is a very different thing. And a lot of the times, who you are when you're looking up porn is not necessarily who you are when you're in bed. I would imagine most people are far more vanilla in bed than they are the porn that they watch. Because a lot of the times, the reality of doing things that you see in porn aren't really that fun or that good. In my experience, you try a lot of stuff, but you find the things that you like doing the most, that give you the most pleasure, the positions that, you kind of dig. But you got to be, porn needs to be creative, so they're coming up with all kinds of different shit. But most of that, what looks good on camera isn't necessarily what's pleasurable. But she's trying. Allie wants to try. She wants to enjoy sex with Dave. But she doesn't know. She doesn't know that he's got problems. So anyway, next day, I think, Dave is out with the boys, with Gata, Els, Mike. They're out getting brunch or lunch. I don't know. Midday. They're going for a meal. Little Dave is blaming Els for allowing Allie to stay in the recording booth because it gave her ideas, thinking that he wants to get freakier in bed. You have Els giving out advice like, oh, you need to spit in her mouth. And Gata is obviously the most confident, like, cool dude in the room, showing how effortlessly he can spit game to a waitress, and then the waitress just effortlessly, like, not even fazed by it. So Dave isn't, and obviously it's not Elle's fault. It's Dave's unwilling. It's just Dave's, he's got problems. And that they fill in, Mike knows about Dave's dick. Els knows about Dave's dick. Gata finds out about Dave's dick, at least a little bit of it, in this episode. Because everything about this episode is Dave's dick. And of course, Gata doesn't want to have anything to do with it. It's like, oh, that's what you're talking about. I'm out. Peace. Don't, no more. Let's change the subject. He ends up losing his grill. Mike, who was trying to, like, everybody, because Gata's the coolest dude in the room, Mike and Els are both trying to relate as hardcore as they can to Gata. Els using the fact that they have similar melanin content, and Mike trying to act like he's from the streets because he came from Chicago, which is something that comedian Andrew Santino, who plays Mike, is similar, has a similar argument in real life, at least on podcasts, and maybe he's just repeating that because it's in the show. Either way, it's funny to watch both of them kind of try to be accepted by Gata, I guess. But Gata loses his grill. Mike effortlessly goes and gets it. He saw the busboy picking up the dishes when they showed up, and he gets it for him. And Mike had been talking about how he can't log in to his streaming service or whatever to watch a Fish concert that's playing, so Gata offers to help him out because he found his grill for him. So they're bonding on some level, which is nice, So then going over to the other side of the coin, we're seeing Emma talking with, we're seeing Allie and Emma going over the situation about Dave while they're cleaning out the refrigerator. Very funny. Another thing that happens a lot when you're in your 30s, you have roommates. Like refrigerators sometimes, even when you are a single person living alone, your refrigerator will like slowly collect things that just never get used. And every once in a while you have to go through and you have to clean it out. And that's what they're doing while they're talking about Dave and sex. And how, Allie is just trying to run ideas by Emma about Dave and what she thinks. And Emma's like, you need to figure out what unlocks him. You need to figure out what it is that opens up. And still she doesn't know what his trauma is. She doesn't know why he is so just conservative when it comes to being in the bedroom. Very bland, they're not having good sex. And that's an aspect of the relationship Allie wants to fix. And Emma's supportive about it. But it's nice we get to see at least their perspective on it, because we know where Dave is coming from. We know we saw that we've been described the traumatic events that have befallen his penis on some level of detail. Like, we understand. She doesn't know yet. Join Inspired Disorder Plus today. Head on over to inspireddisorder.com/plus to join. Membership includes members-only discounts and deals. You get access to the Ray Taylor Show completely ad-free, as well as bonus episodes. You get access to the complete live painting archive. You also get access to every single podcast ever produced by Inspired Disorder, hosted by Ray Taylor. You get access to Ray Taylor's personal blog, as well as the opportunity to ask me any questions. So if you want to start a podcast, you're into art, Ask Me Anything. And so many more things are being added every day to Inspired Disorder Plus. So sign up today, become a member, head on over to inspireddisorder.com/plus and become an Inspired Disorder Plus member today. So we see Mike and Gata at like a 7-Eleven, a convenience store, and some dude gives Gata a hard time. And Mike freezes. Like almost trying to pick a fight, but like, you know, just like there's people sometimes in life, depending on where you live, where it's just like, it's almost like school, where it's like the only interactions you have with some people is just them on some level trying to bully you. It's the same thing with like trolls online. It's like trolls in life. And Gata ran into a troll in life who's trying to like get him fired up. But Gata, unfazed by the situation. Meanwhile, Mike, the guy from the tough streets of Chicago, is completely frozen and petrified. But as soon as the event is gone, as soon as that troll leaves the situation, Gata's like far more impressed with the selection of soda that's, you know, behind the glass doors in this convenience store. But Mike's smitten with this guy. He's like, all right. He's like a dude, man. He's cool. He's not fazed by like real life troll people. I want to be friends with this guy. Which is fun seeing those two guys bond. You know, it's always like stressful when you have when you make a new friend and like trying to roll them into your friend group. It's always because it just doesn't always work. Sadly, it in my experience works less than more. It is very unlikely to add in a lot of times. And I've seen it on both ends. I've seen like the old friends not and the new friends not, and it's like, it's weird. But it's nice to see that they are bonding. Then they're back. Mike and Gata are back at Mike's apartment, Dave's apartment, and Gata effortlessly gets it going. Mike is super stoked. Offers weed. Gata's introduced to fish, which I'm not a big fish person, but, you know, I understand. There's a joke about it where it just sounds like the band is warming up. But that's actually, they're like a jam band. I think the definition of that type of music, which fits Mike's character. I mean, you want to talk about white dude who smokes weed. I mean, I guess it doesn't fit all white dudes. But like that kind of like, it's one of those hippie type of bands, you know, like a Rolling Stones, not Rolling Stones, but I'm completely blanking on. That's horrible. Moving on. But yeah, they're bonding, further bonding. Meanwhile, in the bedroom, in the bedroom, Dave and Allie are getting it on again. And they, you know, she's trying to talk to him. Maybe it's like talking, like, and like for me, I'm good at talking when it comes to like texting. Like when I can like proofread the things I'm about to say, I'm much smoother. I'm much sexier. But when it comes to like a live performance while having sex, I would probably be more awkward than Dave is. And Allie's awkward as well. I mean, neither of them feel comfortable, but at least she's trying to figure out what that combination of things is she needs to do to unlock Dave. And it seems like it worked. He fake cummed. He pretended. which I have done myself very rarely. Very rarely. But, you know, it's happened. And he did it. And then he woke up later. Like there's an instance specifically where I've done this as well. Not exactly, but like I, for whatever reason, wasn't really into it or wasn't feeling it. So I faked it just to like, you know, okay. I don't want this to be an ongoing, like a never-ending thing that I'm just whatever not into for whatever reason. And then woken up and then gone to the bathroom to finish off. Only once, I think, ever in my entire life that I've actually done that. Now, I didn't have a half of a rubber human. I just used my hand. But Dave goes into the bathroom, wakes up at night, takes the rubber thing out of the closet, and while he's doing it or just about to do it, Allie knocks on the door because she needs to pee. So, of course, Dave scrambling. He's stuck in his bathroom. He's got this rubber torso thing bent over the counter. He's got it like, it is huge, which makes sense for the show to have chosen the largest type of sex toy for Dave to own. This giant rubbery, and it's like, because it's so limp, it is like impossible. It just flows away from everything. You can't like neatly stack it or anything like that. It just melts to the lowest place. It flattens itself. Finally throws it in the shower and lets her in to pee. And while they're like having a little conversation or whatever, it falls out. Oh, I forgot to say, after the fake orgasm, which was hilarious, Dave says, "Amen, brother," to her. After she's like had this great orgasm, and he faked it, and he like just further illustrating how little he was connected to that situation of talking dirty during sex. Throws out, "Amen, brother." That's hilarious. I forgot. That's why I have notes, so I can remember that. So they have an argument because the thing falls out and she's angry because it's like she's trying to understand what he's into and he didn't bring that up. Obviously, that's not the thing he masturbates to. That's the thing he uses to masturbate. So technically, she didn't ask the right question that would allow him to then divulge that specific thing. But if you're going to be in a relationship, you got to be comfortable opening up. So, you know, but he's traumatized, but she gets it out of him. Despite the fact that he says it looks like an old pile of worms. Like, just so many, like, he goes through the entire, in detail, what happened to his penis. Like, we got different versions of it when he was talking with his parents at the beginning of the episode. How he's got 2 pee holes and scarring. Doesn't really go into detail. But the second pee hole came from, he had these seed, marks on his dick, and he got one of them. One of the ones that was removed, they ended up removing too much, and it ended up making another pee hole. But she doesn't believe him, despite the fact that Dave has said many times in this episode how meticulously he protects how he sets up sex. He's almost as meticulous as when he goes to masturbate. Low lighting, good, angles that you don't really get to see it. All of these things. She doesn't believe it. But then he shows her. And she's fine with it, obviously, because she likes him. So it doesn't matter. He's been inside her. Who cares? Which is like when you have trauma from childhood. it's sometimes you don't get over that stuff until much later. Like you stop. It takes forever to stop caring about things that are not really important. Like it becomes like the thing by which you judge other people. Like if somebody had an issue with his dick, then that's a person that he doesn't need to be in a relationship with. Obviously, like if there's somebody that doesn't like an aspect of you that is like just part of who you are, then yeah, there's plenty of people get like that. Don't expect somebody to grow to love a thing that they start off being vocally against. That's an uphill battle that's never good. So this time, Allie's great girlfriend. A great girlfriend. And then, she's fine with his dick. She's good with it. And she goes even a step farther. I don't know if it's later that night or maybe the next night, but cut to Dave is on the couch watching TV at night. He gets a text from Allie telling him to go out to the garage. And what do we see? Allie stepping up and going above and beyond once again as a great girlfriend. She has a milking table for Dave. And Dave wants to, she's like, last night you did what I wanted to do, so tonight we'll do what you want to do. But Dave, still probably not comfortable, I would imagine, tells her that he's going to eat her ass because that's what she wanted, and he never did it. And so she gets up on the table and puts her butthole in the hole. And just as Dave is about to go in, who do you think? Mike shows up. The garage door starts to roll up. Meanwhile, you have Dave on the bottom shelf of this table, naked. You have Allie on the top shelf of this table, naked. And Mike getting home from work from his boring-ass existence as a money manager, whatever his job is. He has to see his roommate and his roommate's girlfriend using the garage for their sex stuff, which is hilarious. I mean, that's the end of the episode, and just like previous episode, ends on just a hilarious moment. Like having your roommate open the garage on you as you're doing, like, that's similarly to the torso, the bottom half of a torso that Lil Dicky uses to masturbate, just over and beyond. Like, to have this giant table with a hole in it, this milking table, have this elaborate thing where you're going to have some fun with your girlfriend, just finally opening up sexually, and then Mike has to show up, and he's like, it's like these people are living their life, and I'm just getting home from a shitty job that I don't really like. So that's the end of the episode. Hypospadias. We found out everything I believe there is to know. Other people other than me, or even could probably illustrate from the mass amounts of descriptors of Dave's dick, could probably illustrate a bunch of different renditions of what it could potentially look like. But yeah, that is the end of the episode. And until next episode, enjoy Dave. New episodes of The Ray Taylor Show come out every single day. Subscribe on YouTube and everywhere our podcasts are found. Binge the full week over at inspireddisorder.com/plus. Buy Ray Taylor Show merch over at inspireddisorder.com. And follow the show on Instagram at Ray Taylor Show. Have a wonderful day, everybody. Peace out!
Today is the day where you wake up and you realize that everything that you've been dreaming about, everything that you've been wanting, every goal and wish and hope that you've ever had can become real. Dreams can come true. What you manifest in your mind, you can bring to reality.